Hi, hello, and welcome to another video on my channel. So today's an OJL Orange Juice Live. I was feeling it today. I got some tequila yesterday from my brother. And we did a mixer or whatever. I did a mixer or whatever just to see what it would taste like. I was feeling like finishing it today. He gave me a lot. I was looking for a shot. But anyway, I was like, she's giving, I don't know if it's necessarily fire water. I was like, what am I going to drink it out of? Because the bottle that I was using yesterday, I ended up throwing away. And then I was like, I got this. So I'm drinking it out of this. I don't know if those sounds are as like obnoxious on the mic. But I figured we'd mix it together. So I'm going to untwist this cap. I'm going to pour in the tequila. I'm going to give it a little mix. Give it a little mix. It smells very tequila. And I don't know. She was given like fire water. She was given dragon breath. So that's what we're doing. Also, I had a weird dream last night. And it wasn't until like I went and got the little ring light situation in the webcam that I was like, wait. So in the dream, there was this female. And I say female because I feel like she was a woman, but she kind of acted like a girl. Like, you know what I mean? So, and it's not that it necessarily matters her age, but there's a difference, right, between a child or a young adult and like a matured person. So anyway, she had like shrank to like that big. I don't know why. I was like carrying her around. I guess like this. She was riding on my hand and I was carrying her like that, right? So she would sit. 1 second. Okay. Ooh, I taste the alcohol. So I was carrying her around like that. So her legs were here and I was bracing like her back so she would like sit. And I'm freaking out because I'm like, oh my God, like you're so tiny and delicate and I'm clumsy AF. Well, not AF. I have my moments where there's no grace, no elegance. And she was like, oh, like I don't need the back support, like I don't need you to do this and I don't need you to do that. I'm like, okay, if you don't want it, I'm gonna respect you. And so I put like my middle finger down and she was just like riding on my finger. I'm going about my day doing whatever, and then all of a sudden like I look down and she's on the ground. Thankfully in the dream it wasn't like gruesome or grotesque or whatever, but like she had fallen and perished. And then I'm just like, and of course, I wake up and I'm like, that was such a weird dream. But then I remembered that on the thing for the booster pack, there was the wasp, right? She shrinks. And I was like, oh, okay. At least there's some kind of theme there. I don't know. And I felt so bad because I was already freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, girl, like, first I'm like, why are you so small? Why did you get so small? But why do I have to be the one to, like, what is happening? And again, like I tried to compensate. I was like, well, let me at least, brace your back. So, because she riding on a finger. And she was like, I don't. And I'm like, okay, if you don't, I respect your autonomy. If you say you don't want it and then she fell. And again, like, and I didn't notice. It was like she wasn't there, and then I looked down and she was. Why is these are not shuffling? Then I looked down and she was on the ground, and I was like, "Ooh, okay." Anyway, don't know what that's about, but anyway, trust and vision. I keep trying to shuffle these. I'm using. There we go. Maybe they just wanted to be acknowledged. Trust and vision. Excuse me. I'm looking for the dragon today. So still doing the places, still doing the water on animal spirits. I grabbed the Osho Zen Tarot, the Star Dragon Oracle cards, and the Dragon Oracle. We're kind of doing a like head of the dragon, tail of the dragon type thing. So, and one dragon oracle is going to be one dragon energy. The other dragon oracle is going to be the other dragon energy. I'm going to use the Osho Zen Tarot to bridge it. And because I'm doing a head of the dragon, tail of the dragon inspired approach, there's actually going to be two destinations. I think I'm going to do one road, but two destinations. And again, it'll just be the first ones that come out, right? Past lives and compromise. Interesting. Interesting. I want to see. I feel like I got so many friends I ain't seen in a minute. Celebration and control. And we'll do one more. Okay, we got a flipper. It's the Fool. I'm pretty sure the Fool was the final card. The Fool in control. She's giving like Drat. Right? Like the Fool has gone off of the control table, and that. Okay. Let's do one of these real quick because it gets warm. There you go. Like the Fool, like this cliff is that. So the Fool has jumped off and into whatever's down there. And that energy is like banging their heads on the table, like, oh, it escaped, or it's not on the whatever. Inner voice and consciousness under that control. See? The Fool listen to their inner voice and consciousness, discernment, intuition, and they've ended up outside of this being's control, question mark. Cool. Now the dragon is our only mythical creature. Participation. Outside of control and in the energy of participation, which makes a lot of sense if you think about it. Okay. I've already pre-shuffled all of these, but we're pre-shuffling again. I'm gonna flip the dragon. Flip the dragon. And then interesting. Excuse me. The tiger. I found the tiger. One more. The fox and the swan. The fox and the swan is such an interesting energy because it almost feels like it shows you what you want to see. Right? With that kitsune fox magic illusion type whatever. It shows somebody what they want to see. And we are talking about So this is the dragon path. And then I'm like, I'm doing this, right? And I think back to when I used the wild unknown archetypes. And I think the bottom of the deck was like the temple, the one, and the something else. And it was like finding the divine and the shadows and nooks and cracks and crannies of like the temple. How there is such a almost performative or frenzied aspect to it, but then like you can genuinely find the divine there. Especially like with the falling of the illusion and all that scientisty energy with the BP madness. It was like booster pack madness, but I didn't type out booster pack because honestly, I try to keep the titles like vague enough, especially while I'm live, because if someone's searching like Magic the Gathering card booster packs, I'm not necessarily trying to pop up. So I shortened booster pack madness to BP madness, and I was like, oh, BPM, interesting. But in like the illusion or the hallucination of that, right? So anyway, I was like, there is a framework that was laid before. So the alleyway is at the bottom of the deck. Hidden pathway and shortcut revealed. Okay, the alleyway and the laundromat. I wouldn't have necessarily thought of the laundromat as the destination, but I guess if you have an alleyway as the trail, then it would make sense for a more urban thing to be the destination. So the railway or the roadways are like, um, I don't know if we're gonna get an environment this time. It just kind of worked out that way last time. The roadways are like the airport for skyways. There's like trails, rivers, other kinds of stuff. If it has a vibe of like a path that you can travel or a medium that you travel through, that's the roadway. And then the destination, I'm thinking like, a mountain, volcano, like natural places. The lake would be a destination because it's like where the river ends. You know what I mean? But I guess if we get the alleyway, then anything can be the destination. It could be the library, it could be the art gallery, it could be the laundromat, it could be a police station or fire station. And it just happened to work out last time. So, love that. Okay. 3, 2. Ooh, we almost got some action. 1. Excuse me, I'm going to give it a cut. That one cut ended up being 2. I'm going to pull from the top of the deck. First card we have is the dentist, the park, and the restaurant are the first 3. I'm doing them in order. So it'll be the destination after the pathway. I think the lighthouse is going to be our environment. Beacon of safety, illuminating paths. Illuminating paths, and we're looking for the path. Interesting. Or the roadway, the trailway. So the other cards, well, I guess that was the 5th. It was the dentist, the park, the restaurant, and the casino. I guess the park could have been the environment, but the park was reading more like a destination. So then I looked at the lighthouse and I was like, okay, this feels like the environment. It's vibes and feelings. The same thing that's like, this is what I'm gonna do, and this is how I'm gonna do it. The wishing well, home. I think I'm gonna take the wishing well as the roadway. And so I don't necessarily know what the destination is. Every now and then I'll be you just got to go with the flow sometimes. I got to go with the flow and just be like, okay, not necessarily what I was thinking, but also for some reason when I was going to grab the Osho Zen tarot, I had the thought, oh, I'll use the Osho Zen tarot. I got to grab the Osho Zen tarot. It's in the bottom drawer. And then Ochosi or Ochosi comes across my brain. I think Ochosi is one of the warriors, I think. I know Ochosi came up on one of those Orisha Tarot cards. Ochosi is the Orisha of the wilderness, the divine hunter, and the protector of justice. This is the AI overview. He is known for his great precision, his connection to the natural world, and his role as a swift pathfinder. Core roles and symbolism: the divine hunter, master of the forest, and inventor of the bow and arrow, representing absolute focus and accuracy. Enforcer of justice, associated with truth, ethical behavior, and helping those seeking fairness or dealing with legal systems. And then the warrior trinity, part of a sacred group of warrior orishas alongside Elegba and Ogun. So you have the opener of paths, the god of iron and labor, and then this divine hunter and protector of justice. It popped into my mind. And then I was like, I'm not going to talk about it. And now I am. Because I feel not lost per se. Almost like, just like I didn't think of the airport as representing airways until I saw the airport. So the lighthouse feels like the environment with its illumination, illuminating pathways. And the wishing well, it's reading as the path, but I guess the wishing well would symbolize like internal paths, not only like spiritual paths or paths of desire, but like there's a depth, almost like a siren like energy, but not. But like because this is the environment and the roadway, I don't know what the destination is supposed to be. Like home, we could have taken home. That would have been like real low hanging fruit, and not necessarily low hanging fruit in a way that's not it's just like easy, right? After a lifetime of being, after a lifetime of maybe struggling to find a place where one feels like safety and comfort and where they can unwind and maybe a sense of belonging, then of course, like that's where like the wishing well and the lighthouse would lead someone to. I feel like the lighthouse with the wishing well and home as a trio is interesting, especially since the Odyssey just came out. I haven't seen it, but it took Odysseus 20 years, I think, to make it home. He like there was Charybdis and Circe and all of this other stuff along the way. Polyphemus the Cyclops? I was playing Hades too. I picked it up yesterday. And was it Neptune? Poseidon? That mentioned Polyphemus? It was like, oh, you're going to fight that. So in Hades 2, Polyphemus, the Cyclops that Odysseus blinded, is like the first boss that you fight. On there's like the descension into the house of Hades, and then there's the ascension to the top of Mount Olympus. So on the path of ascension to the top of Mount Olympus, the first boss you face is Polyphemus, I believe, the Cyclops. You face the Cyclops, and I feel like it was Poseidon, And he was like, oh, like, I, something like he had joked that Polyphemus was his kid. So, like, Polyphemus was a demigod, and then, like, something had happened where he, I don't know. I don't necessarily know. Anyway, but I guess in this framework of the BP madness, booster pack madness, with the hallucination, especially with that energy when it came towards the end, and we saw the Kree commander or whatever, and it was very much that energy of like when we thought we were untouchable and drunk on the power of whatever, and we were doing anything and everything. And then it's like when it comes time for justice to be meted out or delivered, how we can sometimes be surprised that we stand under the blade of justice. Because again, in our minds, it's like, well, kind of like we didn't do anything wrong or everyone was doing it or blah, blah, blah. But again, it was that energy of like, why would, like, if you were really about what you said you'd be about, then you would know that this isn't something that you should have been doing, because this, no part of this aligns with like the expectation versus reality type thing. And so I guess that can kind of play into it with that whole like Polyphemus thought he was the son of whichever god. And that, I mean, but if you look at the Greek gods, they kind of did what they wanted. If that's the example that, you're kind of following, it would make sense. But I guess like just like, and I feel like there are so many belief systems where, and it's not always incorrect, because there are elements of justice and judgment and fairness and protection and all kinds of stuff. So there are going to be examples of when that protection comes into play. But to live in that and to see oneself as whatever, right? Like, ain't nobody tell you to do all that. And now you've become a problem that has to be taken care of. And even again, because I thought about this maybe earlier, even if it's not about ethical, moral, right and wrong, there are elements of balance. You know what I mean? So anyway, am I going to look up Polyphemus to see which one it is? No, because it doesn't contribute anything more beyond that. I do still feel not necessarily like a little stuck, but I'm like, okay, wait. I'm not going for home. Home is, there are a lot of situations and circumstances where it can resonate, but that's not where we're going. I was also thinking about the sojourning and peregrination earlier today. I was like doing some rearranging today, right? Events have come together in a way that we can move some stuff out of here and into, somewhere else. And so as I'm like moving stuff and clearing out space, I thought about that sojourning and peregrination, and the sojourning piece. I think sometimes when it comes to the peregrination of it all, with almost like this larger picture, maybe purpose, mission, maybe like soul, spirit related things that kind of go beyond the vessel and this, we kind of neglect this life. And the sojourning part of that sojourning and peregrination was like to be in this incarnation, in this life, and to not just kind of like write it off as sometimes we kind of can, or as we can be sort of inspired to, right? It becomes more about what's next. or more about these larger things. And sometimes when we're disconnected from the lived experience, it can be really easy to not notice where reality isn't meeting the expectation. And now that I say expectation versus reality, there's this like what's expected of us versus what we do in reality, right? If we're expected to be kind and caring and compassionate and to whatever, but is that like the reality of who we are and how we operate, like in real life, outside of that kind of blindness that larger picture can produce, right? It's almost like we're counting dollars and neglecting the cents. And so when you scale it up, there's going to be like a massive deficit, right? If it's only $1 and you're like 2 cents, 3 cents, 5 cents, 10 cents, up to like 17 cents short. When it's like $1, $10, that's minimal. But when you start to get into the billions and the millions, now you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars that are just not accounted for. And depending on whatever, that deficit will have to be made up. Anyway, maybe we'll just keep flipping and we'll go with the vibes. Next card, we have the gym. Fitness center, build that muscle. Is the gym? I feel like it could be. Because the wishing well is the pathway, we'll take it. And the thought here is very like, it's like the preparation. Ooh, are we taking this too? I think we taking this too. The title card. I think we'll take the title card. We have to take the title card. Wishing well, the lighthouse. The reason why I'm taking the gym is because like sometimes there's something that we wish for or there's a plan that we have, and in order to get there are things that we like have to overcome or whatever, right? It's through the trials and tribulations and challenges that the hero overcomes that they gather the strength, the allies, the no like wherewithal, knowledge to conquer the ultimate task and to reach that happily ever after, right? See, but in that case, I feel like the gym would be another roadway. It wouldn't necessarily be a destination. So we're going to keep going. The title card is going to stay on the table as one destination. Though. The courtroom, justice arena, truth meets law. Well, hey, Ochosi, we got to go with it. The courtroom and the title card are the two destinations. Again, I could see the gym, like with all that energy of the gym, that's again, it's part of the path, it's not the destination. So cool. For some reason, I think back when Rob Kenobi, no, yeah, when Rob's tarot was Rob Kenobi, there was one of his past life regression sessions with this courtroom that's standing out to me. And the only thing I remember about that session is like someone had was like before a council. And I think it was one of those like in between incarnations type of deals. I don't fully remember. I don't know if it's still up, but it's bringing that one to mind. Something about like going before a council. Cool. Bottom of the deck is karaoke, open stage, melodies for expression. Interesting. Okay. I already flipped the dragon. Let's get the dragon. The lizard and the vulture. I feel like to call a dragon a lizard is derogatory. Ooh, the bear just made some noise. Okay. The turtle just flipped out. I could catch the bear. The turtle flipped and came out. Which is interesting. I'm always watching or seeing or something, whatever. I saw a post yesterday about the Avatar Aang movie and how in the movie you saw three dragon turtles, even though in like the Avatar one question mark lore in the background, it was revealed that there are four dragon turtles. And I'm like, I was looking at because they each had like an element sort of like in the wrinkles of their forehead. And I was looking at them and I had the thought to see which one was missing, but I kept scrolling. I was like, that one looks like water because it has waves. And then I scrolled, so I don't even remember which one was missing. But the fact that like we're looking for the dragon and the turtle came out is interesting. Also, the dragon turtle was the one that taught the first avatar how to bend the elements, or was like the gateway to bending the elements. Also, with this turtle, it's giving me the energy of that one turtle that was blessed by the being of light to carry that light into the depths of the water where there was only darkness. And I guess that's interesting because when the wolf came out to symbolize the dog yesterday, the well that was at the bottom of the animal spirits, it was that energy of like, you know, in that deep sea environment, someone had gotten accustomed, they were going through whatever they were going through, but now it's time to ascend. And as you ascend, like you're getting further from those geothermal vents, not volts, like a VAULTS, which is interesting. I mean, bounty of the deep ocean, sure. Bounty of the earth, I guess. Anyway, like you're going to hit a period where it's cold because you're getting further from the geothermal volts. Also, like in the darkness of that deep sea, you're going to start, it's going to get brighter and brighter the closer you get to the surface, especially if it's daytime. If it's nighttime, I guess it won't be as bright. The pressure is going to be different. Like there's are things that are different, right? I feel like I just did so much talking. I don't even remember how I got on that thread. Anyway, let's continue. Oh, because the turtle that carried the light into the areas to the areas of the water where light doesn't penetrate. Okay, let's see if I can just. Oh, look, there's a dragon. This is my new favorite thing to do. The turtle did fall on the side of the title card. Bottom of the deck is the crow. So there's a bird because it's the dragon cat dog bird frog. So we have the bird here. And it's interesting that it's the crow because of the crow's association with like maybe like a noir type vibe, right? Maybe kind of like the macabre. It's not necessarily the vulture, which we did see at the cut with whatever the vulture was at the cut with. I don't remember. I've already forgotten. The wolf? Was it the wolf? No. The tiger and the vulture? Maybe. But also this crow. Oh, look at that. There's the wolf. I picked up the crow and then I saw the wolf. Under the wolf is the lion. There's like this thingy that the crow is perched on. And then again, there's that energy of the turtle carrying the light to the depths of water that sunlight doesn't penetrate. But this is almost like that's the turtle being the light and the dark. There's something about this. It's not necessarily the dark and the light, but it's something. Almost like when you're in the light, it's so bright that like you wouldn't see it. It would be easy to miss. But also, there's this mental impression that's very like the thing itself is luminous. Whatever that crow is on, it's luminous, but it's luminous in a bright environment, so you can't even necessarily really tell. If it were dark, you would see it easily, but it's like it's something of light that's hidden in the light that because it's so bright in the light, like you would never see it or you wouldn't recognize it as luminous because again, it's so bright in that environment, you wouldn't be able to tell. Okay, so clean flip or clean fall. We'll put this dragon over here. I'm gonna shuffle it towards the side of the courtroom, but we'll see if it flip on the side of the title card. Because these cards, they be acrobatic. They'll be doing all kinds of stuff. Clean flip or clean fall. We're just gonna keep shuffling. Actually, we'll put it over here. The reason why, so I'm using the Dragon Oracle cards. To me, for me, sometimes these are a little like, right? It's kind of like what we think of dragon at. It's almost like what we've made dragon energy because of what we need it to be or what we need it to symbolize. Almost like not necessarily that like we need it to be a kind of light in the dark type energy, but it's a lot of projection. There's a lot of projection. So this is like the projected dragon, what we project onto dragon. And then the star dragons is sitting in the energy of like what the dragon is. So originally I was going to put this on the side of the courtroom because the courtroom isn't the title card, but I'm going to move it over to the side of the title card because this is us making sense out of the unknown or out of the unknowable or, you know, best guess, best guesstimate with what we have. This is what we know. Clean flipper, clean fall. Okay, it feels like it's starting to loosen up a little bit. Ooh. Bottom of the deck is the black dragon. You can see the stars on it. And it's like protecting that bubble. Black dragon cocoons you so that your divine potential grows. Meditate, reflect, undergo a metamorphosis. And that's giving middle world energy. The dragon that came out, as I was saying literally everything that I just said, is the golden Christed dragon. Brings you higher love so that you embody the Christ light, absorbs the Christ light, you are protected. Expand your heart and remain fifth dimensional. So exactly that whole like what we project onto it and all that other stuff, pretty much the embodiment of that energy. And it's interesting because when I was doing the pre-shuffle, I actually saw the golden solar dragon. But the one that came out is this golden Christed dragon. And again, I feel like that is one of those like very interesting like Christ consciousness, this golden Christ like that. And it's like when you think of Christ consciousness and what like Christ represented, what he stood for, what he championed, and what he didn't have the patience for, what he didn't tolerate. And then you look at like some of the people that claim to follow that, it's like night and day. And it is kind of at that point where it's, you know, in some ways, it's very like if Christ were to return, we would put him right back on that cross. Like, you know what I mean? Like it would have played out the same as the first time. And it's one of those, again, top of the reading, that energy of like when we saw the Kree commander and all, it's like if we really were about what we, if reality matched the expectation, things would be different. And again, since this is on the side of like what we project onto dragon energy, it's almost like how we do these like gymnastics to kind of make things easy approachable, or to put ourselves in a position that we may not even necessarily be in. And that's just the difference between expectation and reality. We lose so many cents when we're counting dollars, to the point where now we're into the millions and billions. We're hundreds of thousands of dollars in deficit because of all those ways that reality isn't meeting the expectation. And also the light that blinds us, that gets us to like we doing whatever. It's perfect card came out. Cool. Anyway. And again, it's not to say that there isn't any truth in that. And that's where we get into like the shadow of the divine that you can encounter in the temple. Right? Where where reality actually meets the expectation. It's not that it can't happen. It does. But a lot of times it doesn't. And we just go along with the performance, and we, you know, almost very like mob psychology. It makes it easy for us to justify or whatever, and it's like, okay. It also came out on the side of the unknown. It came out covering the space down animal and the turtle. Dominance, believing in yourself. Are we going to keep this here? Grief, accepting loss. Ooh, girl. Interesting. We got grief and the black dragon at the bottom of those decks. I think I'm going to keep dominance over there. Now, how am I going to do this part? I have the Osho Zen Tarot. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for significators. Consciousness, comparison, clinging to the past, bottom three. One of the ones that I know for sure I'm using is Beyond Illusion. I could do Source, but that don't necessarily... Inner Voice? The Source is easy, but it's too easy. Could do Thunderbolt. Yeah, we'll do Thunderbolt. Maybe just those three. Let's see. I'm going to keep looking. Oh, I got to do the Dream because we have the Wishing Well. I think that's it. I almost went for no thingness, but I don't think so. Okay. So we have Beyond Illusion, Inner Voice, Thunderbolt, and the Dream. If the well is the roadway, I feel like we got it. So now I'm going to shuffle these. Whatever order they come out in is the order that we'll take. Let's do 4. There's 2 and 1, and then we'll give it a cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip these animals. On the side of the courtroom, we have the swan. It was the fox and the swan. That's what we saw at the cut. And it was that the fox was showing us like the illusion that we wanted to see. The other animal on the side of the title card, we have the hawk. We got the hawk, the golden crested dragon, dominance, and the turtle all on this side. The only thing on the side of the courtroom is the swan. The lighthouse. Oh, that's interesting. I forgot about the lighthouse. Because the crow was perched on top of that luminous thing. It feels like this. Oops, there's the wolf again. This is what is in here. And because it's come from this, like, again, like when it's in that light, bright environment, you don't recognize it as being as luminous as it is. It's not until you take it into the dark that you really get to see it. But because the gem also came, because the gem also made such a strong impression, maybe it's like it has the potential to be that luminous, but it's no. She's giving, excuse me, she's giving piezo electricity. I almost pulled the wand of known alchemy, but I didn't, and now here I am. I'm gonna look as the deck is. No, I'll shuffle it. I'm gonna look before and after 10 because it gives this energy like with the gem. It is inherently brilliant or luminous, but there's something to it where you got to make it shine. Maybe it's like a glow stick where you got to crack it, or it's like a touch thing where you have to like depress it. You push the button down or you flip the switch and then the light comes on. And 10, Tin, the element of 10 has that energy in this deck. Which also kind of gives Neptune. Is Neptune retrograde? I'm pretty sure Neptune is retrograde. Neptune and Saturn are both retrograde. Aries, I think. I do have my iPad, so I could check Time Nomad, but one more, and then I'll cut it. Fog, Mars, and Autumn are the bottom 3. Fog, Mars, Autumn on its side, but their great work is upright. I should have flipped this, but it's fine. Who am I looking for? 10. Here it is, between darkening and copper. Darkening on the side of the title card, copper on the side of the courtroom. Darkening is 12, 10 is 21, copper is 23. So we got a 1221 mirror. XXII, XXI, XII. Oh, see this, like when it's like when you press it together with whatever that gem is, then it becomes luminous. Right, you can see the light shining out as it's like pressed together. That's why I'm looking for 10. Darkening title card. Look, there's another raven, but it's not luminous here. And this, it's lost its color. See, that's devil energy. That's devil energy. With that whole hallucination. And again, that was like with the Kree sign, the Kree commander. It's like you've done like nothing that was expected, or none of the expectation is fulfilled in reality. So if you know what the expectation is, but you don't fulfill the expectation in reality, why do we feel so entitled to whatever? If you know you got to clock in 40 hours, or you clock in at all, period, to get paid, and you never show up to work, you never clock in, why are you expecting a paycheck type energy? It's dark. I'm not necessarily going to say it's a day, but anyway. And then on the other side, it's interesting that we get copper, especially because the how the colors match, like these greens and blues in the swan. That's Venus. Cool. All right. Um. Now this was supposed to be connecting the head and tail of the dragon. That was the intention. Maybe we still can. Maybe this is like there's still time to balance the books. There's still time to do a self audit type energy, right? To at least see where those tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars have gone. And it's not even an energy of like somebody or something skimming something off the top. It's more so taking advantage of our carelessness type energy. But that's what that Kree commander energy was. Like it exacerbates, it stokes the flames of what's already there, but it doesn't necessarily cause any issues that aren't pre existing. It's not so conspicuous as that. Did y'all hear that? It's fine. And it's so interesting to see dominance under that golden Christed dragon, because also it was Murdoch's crusade that we saw that came out that preempted. We saw Murdoch's crusade, and then Atlantis had risen, and then I think we saw the Kree commander. So, just off of history and etymology, I feel like this hawk watches. With the courtroom and the swan, that's an energy of something that we call karma or just desserts. It's like our actions being like the reflection that we see in the swan is us, like basically getting what we put out into the world. That's us getting it back. So if we put out goodness, we'll get goodness. If we don't, we won't. And I feel like, again, it's almost a very human thing to be like, well, if I had known that, I would get back what I was putting out into the world, then I would have put out better. If I had known that, like, I was getting like a match to my energy, then I would have put out better energy. And it's like, it's almost like within that framework, like the wildness of that statement, when you have like this golden Christed light, like the expectation was there. The contract is something that we signed. All of the information was provided to us. No, all of those ethical, moral, energetic, whatever human gymnastics to keep ourselves on a pedestal or to absolve ourselves of anything, like when the balance is due, it's due. Like we knew up front. You know what I mean? And that was also the energy, like with the hallucination that's like closing down, where the truth of certain things are sort of, coming to the light or whatever. All of the stuff we had already known. We just thought we could game the system or get away with it, or again with that energy that was like with ritual and all this other stuff. Well, if you do X, Y, and Z and you do these affirmations, and then it'll just like nothing that you do matters. It's almost that energy. What was it? Where it was like basically if you paid enough money, you could buy a ticket to heaven. You pay money, your sins are forgiven, and you can go to heaven. And it's wild how we went from like that to the legal system, low key. I guess there's always been a price that you could pay to be absolved and exonerated. But that's when you get into the energy of currency, too, right? What kind of currency? Like, even if you could bribe the judge or whatever, the judge in this courtroom isn't human. So, what currency could you bribe this judge with? Why would, I mean, it's fine. I forget what I learned it in high school. I forget what that word is. It doesn't matter. Because it's like you pay money and your sins are forgiven and then you can get into heaven. Who do you pay it? Do you pay it to the priest or the pope? I don't know. I feel like it was a Catholic thing. But even if we're not sort of like paying money, it's that whole like we think we can circumvent balance or whatever by whatever. Anyway, this did not. It's fine. It's also interesting that with darkening, we have this air and fire. With these two stacked triangles, there's this like the bottom one is air, the top one is fire. Excuse me. Because it's darkening. Now, is that giving zeal without knowledge is like fire without light? We saw fire recently. Hey, Holly, how you doing? We saw fire recently. No, it was that energy of like, because someone was like, if you starve a fire of oxygen, then it'll go out. And I'm like, yeah, if you can control the environment effectively enough to starve it of like organic fuel and oxygen, then yeah. But if you can't do that, then starving it of oxygen, it's almost like it could be futile unless you're in a vacuum. But then there was an energy, there was like a fire that was burning like in space where there is no oxygen. The fire is burning without oxygen. So why do we think removing oxygen would put the fire out? It exists in a vacuum. Because we see the gem. Also, is this the core of the thing? You know, copper Venus love, but like, you know, real love, not that love that proclaims itself but then turns around and treats you like garbage or disregards you or doesn't care if you suffer horrendously as long as it's, you know. I feel like this turtle is about to get eaten alive. Okay, we still got these. Am I gonna? Oh, I'll Google it. I forget what the word was. I don't want to say Catholic ticket to heaven. Catholic. I feel like it was like old Catholic, not necessarily current Catholic. Like if you're talking about crusades, like during that time, and it's like, girl, y'all down there doing what? It's like it don't make it make sense. The Catholic ticket to heaven. Are you listening to me? Pay money and sins forgiven. Indulgences. Was it indulgences? Yeah. In the teaching of the Catholic Church, an indulgence is a way to reduce the amount of punishment one has to undergo for forgiven sins. The Catechism of the Catholic Church describes an indulgence as a remission before God of the temporal punishment due to sins whose guilt has already been forgiven, which the faithful Christian who is duly deposed gains under certain prescribed conditions. So yeah, that's like the recipient of an indulgence must perform an action to receive it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyway, they was paying with money. They was paying with money back in the day. And it's like the energy of indulgences is kind of still like we ain't paying money, but it's like, you know, listen to this and do this retreat and do this chakra cleanse or buy this stone or like do this ritual, light this incense. And it's like it doesn't, especially if like we're gonna be a repeat offender type energy. Anyway. And I feel like the thing to note here, it's like if there is a thing that the crow gets, like we all get the same stone. No one stone is inherently more luminous than anybody else's. It's how we tend to it and take care of it. Like if you polish it, then it'll be luminous type energy. You know what I mean? Anyway, it's fine. I mean, I guess, you know, you don't do the dragon reading and expect things to not get a little hot. I kind of did want to get elements. Also, with this copper Venus energy, I know she's technically air and earth through Libra and Taurus, but with these greens and blues, it's giving earth and water. When it came to the dog, was it the shield or no? I feel like there was some kind of earth and water energy with the booster pack madness, but there was a lot of like thunder and fire that was trying to like exert dominance type. I don't know. Anyway. What? That's. I mean, I feel like that's partially crazy, and it's partially like that's where we are now. That is still wild though. You have to pay to enable the ice feature. Interesting. Okay. Thunderbolt and Inner Voice come out together, literally right next to each other. Moment to moment is before Inner Voice. Change is after Thunderbolt. I feel like moment to moment and change is kind of a play on that. Like if you, what is it? If you mind the sense, then the something something. That whole like when you like 2, 5, 10, 17 cents off of $1 is one thing, but when you multiply that many fold, when you're in the millions and billions, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of. If you're in the billions, you're talking about millions of dollars. If you're in the millions, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars. Inner Voice and Thunderbolt, we have dominance on the side of this golden Christ the dragon. Inner Voice and Thunderbolt is an energy of authority. Like this is authority. And like that's like dominance is something that has to be exerted. Authority is something that's like innate. Authority is authority transcends. It just like if something is said with authority, it will come to be, it will come to pass. Now, you can exert dominance in a way that might look like authority to some. And it's, now that dominance is here, it's interesting because at the beginning with the Oshos and Tarot, we saw the fool that had left away from control. And then it ended up in that energy of participation. Inner Voice is on the courtroom, and the swan change lies. It sits on top of the lighthouse on the axis, I guess, of this lighthouse, wishing well, the dragon 10. Next, Beyond Illusion. We have Totality and Turning In. I feel like that's like the connection almost happening, especially as we're getting closer into that Golden Crested Dragon Dominance Hawk Turtle Darkening title card energy. So after change is turning in, be the change that you wish to see in the world type energy. There's something to this wishing. It's actually hilarious. I did this whole thought exercise around wells like yesterday, maybe the day before, recently, within the past few days. This turning in on top of the wishing well, on top of change, like this change, you see how it's like there's the yin yang in the middle, and then there's all this other stuff, and we see all this. Like, this is the wishing well. Like, if you go to the well, that's what you would see. I mean, at least if it's like turned on, you know what I mean? If it's not stagnant and still, then you'll see it like whirling. And that's where this person is as they're turning in, tuning in. They're sitting again with totality. We're supposed to be connecting the head of the dragon to the tail of the dragon, and it's almost connected as it's turning in beyond the illusion, beyond the hallucination, beyond the very human, like where reality is starting to meet expectation type energy. Like the light is about to turn on. This thing is about to glow. What was darkened here? Is she giving secret agent? Maybe not. The last card is the dream. Bottom of the deck is trust. Free falling. As we were literally talking about the fool that jumped off control's table. Falling free through the sky on the wings of trust. Cool. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Wow, exhaustion and possibilities. Look at the bird. It's an eagle. It's here with the sunrise and the eagle, possibilities, two of fire. There, the card of exhaustion, the nine of fire. I mean, I feel like, it speaks for itself, really, honestly. Really, honestly, truly. Um, and I feel like exhaustion is a very real thing, right? You hear people talk about it all the time. And I feel like, honestly, with where I am in my journey, I feel like kind of with where I've been in my journey, there are certain sentiments that I'll hear on the YouTubes that are echoed. And they're like, even outside of YouTube, like, but to me, because it's like things are set up different, it's like it's cultural. It's also like how I was raised, where like things aren't necessarily, especially on this side, because this is the furthest, the closest to the title card, literally sitting on top of darkening. It's like, again, with all that Jobian energy that was out back in the day, the thing about Job was devil energy was like Job only worships you. Job is only as faithful as he is because of all of this stuff. And God was like, that's not true. And devil energy was like, yes, it is. And God was like, all right, bet. Job lost everything, and his faith didn't waver. And now it seems like whenever it's like the divine is like, it's feels like spirit has gone quiet and this and that, because we're not getting the abundance and the money that symbols, synchronicities, readings were telling us we were going to get, because this person didn't come back to us. You know, all the readings were saying the person is going to come back, and the person didn't come back. We ain't get the money. And now our relationship with the divine is on the rocks. That's kind of like proving devil energy true. A lot of it's been proven true. It seems like a lot, where it's like if we're not financially, like if our human experience isn't on the up and up and up and up and up and up, then our relationship is whatever. And it's like, in what world are like human material 3D matters so intrinsically entwined that one would have an effect on the other? And it's not to say that it's completely disconnected. It's not to say that there won't be times and moments or whatever. But like, as long as we're incarnated and living life and subjected to the rules of living life, we're gonna go through challenges. We're gonna experience whatever. People are gonna pass because we don't live forever. There are gonna be challenging, difficult times, and that shouldn't whatever. You know what I mean? But I feel like there's a lot of conditioning, especially on this side of the table, where that's the case. And so we become spiritually exhausted because of things that aren't even necessarily guaranteed. You know what I mean? And I feel like the 3D, the earthly, the material is so dense and easily manipulated by like devil energies that it's like that's the easiest thing you could do type energy. You know what I mean? And if that's all it takes, then girl, like that's like we're not even in the right headspace. We're not in the right heart space. We're not even in the right spiritual space. It's like that's literally us being dominated and controlled by the outcomes of the 3D sort of like environment. You know what I mean? And again, it's not to say that the divine doesn't have any power to influence the outcome of the 3D and material. But like that was the whole, like that was the bet, that was the bargain, right? And like that Jovian energy, it was like it was floating around, right? It came out over here. Then I was seeing some other readers talking about it. And again, that's why I don't know. It's just like I don't know. Anyway, and I think, and they're like there are different types of exhaustion too, right? Like you can be world weary, where it's like people are doing what, But that's different than like that spiritual exhaustion. That's different than like, well, all of these readings were telling me that somebody was going to be coming back, and I've been doing all of these affirmations and all of these rituals to get my money up, and I'm still broke. And like, I feel like spirit's not whatever because it's not making my wallet fat. So, hey. And it's almost like if you really think about it, um, but I guess like that's what people sell their souls for, right? At least in like the media, in the movies, and the stories, people sell their souls for fame, fortune, money, the hot guy or girl, the hot guy or lady, the prestige, the renown. And it is almost like devil energy is like that's all it costs. You know how easy that is? And I feel like the crux of this is this turning in energy. And you can almost see like this is the calm, this is the peace, this is that realm of divinity, spirituality, rising above the chaos, like rising above the chaos of the day to day doesn't necessarily equate to like everything turning out for the better. You can rise above the chaos and be in the same mess that you were in. You could be sinking, right? Like from the outside, your situation could be getting worse. And internally, you're rising higher because this cuts through all that. But when this noise closes in, and like this is that whatever, and it like collapses it, then of course we're going to end up in exhaustion. But when this expands out, you end up in this copper energy where you don't even see all of this, whatever, because it's gotten like wider and wider and wider. Then that's when you end up in the energy of possibilities. That's when this totality makes the connection. That's when you go beyond the illusion of the 3D material, whatever. And maybe that's a question of like what we really align to, what energies we're really aligned with. You know what I mean? If a little bit of misfortune is all it takes. And again, we're all human. It makes sense. It's understandable. But that's also, again, like that's the difference. I almost want to look for the blade because that's giving me the energy of the blade. And why not? We're already here. Might as well do it. Might as well. Might as well. Gonna do it. Gonna do it. Excuse me. First, we'll put these back in the deck. And then I'll look and I'll flip the blade. Ooh, okay. We got water in the heart of the sky. This water is giving me the wishing well. The well where we see this like change and turning in. And when it's like when things are properly in motion, it's connected to the heart of the sky. And that's the heart of the sky. That's not whatever's going on the surface of the earth. You know what I mean? Vision quest in the water. I'm supposed to flip the blade. Let's find the blade and flip the blade. Heart of the sky is between magic and middle world. That's where the heart of the sky is. And the Omega dragon is behind this black dragon. See that? Let's flip that blade. 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 Yay, yay, yay. Fire and lightning are next to each other. Just like we saw with Thor, the Human Torch. Where that blade it? Where the blade it? Where the blade it? Did I overlook it? Nope, here it is. The blade is in between the council and the sweat lodge. I went looking for the sweat lodge last time. On the other side of the sweat lodge is the upper world. So maybe the blade can cut through the sweat lodge to get to that upper world. The sweat lodge is the dome, is the bubble where we saw with the middle world. I feel like that added this whole, also like the council, the courtroom. Again, I don't, there's so much of that that I don't remember. I don't even know if it's still up on Rob's channel. He is Rob's tarot once again. Rob Kenobi has gone to the great beyond. I mean, I'm sure Rob Kenobi lives within Rob's tarot, right? See, it's almost like there's a bubble that I feel like I never necessarily quite know like the language to use. Uh like so on the side of this like dominance, golden crested dragon, like all of this with the title card. I feel like there's a lot of spiritual prompting to pop the bubble before we're necessarily ready. For some reason, with the blade, it was reading like it makes us susceptible. We forego, we opt out of, we sacrifice, we give away, we forfeit any protections that we would have had, and we become susceptible to a whole bunch of stuff that takes advantage of anything and everything. There's like, as I tuck no hair, it's like opening a doorway, and like you, us, not even necessarily knowing what's on the other side of that door. And again, with that Kree commander from the BP Madness, Booster Pack Madness. It's like if we were to take a second and think, like with the cents, like when we're at $1, $2, $10, if we were counting the cents, we would see where it's not adding up. Right. Anyway, did I show you the blade? I don't think I did. I flipped it. I'm gonna do some more shuffles. Like turning in, that reminds me of the blade. This blade. And turning in. That's why I'm looking for the blade. She's also giving the pupil, I guess, of an eye. Is it a dragon eye? Is it the dragon's eye? Is it the eye of the dragon? When the tiger came out of eye of the tiger. Kinda, sorta, yeah. That's the bottom of the blade. That's the pupil of the dragon's eye. Stand still and the eagle. The eagle is in possibilities. Possibilities. Okay, let's do 3, 2, 1. Oh, okay. I think it just made noise, and I'll cut it. I don't think it flips. It made a lot of noise, but I think it's still face down. It is. The blade is number 6. Was it the? No, that was something else. I was like, I just saw a 24-6 and a 36-9. The 36-9 was in reverse, but the 24-6 was upright. And it was very like, if you were to look at the 9 in reverse, you may think that it's a 6, but it's not. So the eye of the dragon, that's the blade that can cut through illusions, would see, like, you're not a 6, you're a 9 in reverse. You're trying to fool me. Get out of here. If that resonates for you, then it resonates for you. If it doesn't, then don't worry about it. Bottom of the deck is the Seer, which is a 45-11, which is the mirror of 54, which is a 9. I was like, I feel like I just saw 54. Or maybe that was 56-65. Anyway. We have Taming the Wind, number 55, on the side of copper, and the Rainbow, number 41, on the side of the darkening. The Rainbow, I don't know if it's the vibe of the reading. I don't know if it's the fact that it came out on the side of the title card. It may be that. The Rainbow is giving me the energy of illusions, of like holograms, illusions, things that aren't real. And it's giving me that energy because it's the visible like the visible spectrum of light is broken down into all of these colors. And I don't know, it's reading as like it's an emphasis on the things that we can see. But the spectrum extends both ways outside of our visible spectrum. You get, we saw the gamma scientists, you get like gamma, infrared, microwaves, radio waves, ultraviolet, X-rays. Like there's the spectrum extends both ways outside of what is visible. And again, it sort of plays on or preys on this energy of like what we can see and our own experience. Whereas on the other side, with taming the wind, and the wind being something that we don't see, but we can feel and we can see the wind's effects on things. On one side, it tames the unseen. On the other side, it marvels in the spectacle of the spectrum that we can see. And that's not even like taming or controlling or whatever the rainbow. That's just the rainbow. I'm just like, ooh. And if you think about it, outside of like the rainbow as, God's promise to not flood the earth again, when it's like if you think about it, rainbows kind of aren't that special because we see white light all the time. Like how many rainbows do we see that we maybe not like process as rainbows just because it's not broken out and broken apart and separated for us? You know what I mean? It's not that it's not a whatever, but it's like again, it's just that energy, especially on this being the side of what we project onto dragon energy. And then we have the visible spectrum versus taming the wind, the unseen force. There's a lot of stuff here. There's like time master energy, spiral energy. There's a whole bunch of stuff in this. Also, this, if I look at up close, it doesn't look like it. But from a distance, it looks like a pearl. Like if this is the darkened one over here with the visible spectrum of the rainbow and exhaustion and everything else, if this is the darkened one, this is the one that's light. That's the one that, I mean, both of them you put in the lighthouse, but this is the one that's going to guide the ships to safety. And if we're talking about ships, it does give a certain Three of Wands energy, like the ships that are coming in. But with this darkening, the ships are dashed against the rocks because there's no luminosity, there's no light there. The things that are coming in can't even necessarily find us because it's almost like we're somewhere else type energy. I don't know. Anyway, I didn't know that. Also, 5 plus 5 is 10, and 10 is change. But this is like both sides are in an energy of change here. With the 41, it's like, and again, playing into this, reading into this, because this is the context in which it came out in. Spirit is held stationary with the 4, and the earthly, the material, the physical is initiating and leading with the 1. And for an energy like this, it should be the other way around. It's being led by spirit. And that is like moving sort of like the physical rather than it hog tying the spiritual and trying to lead it physically. But again, that's what that's what that energy is. And it's not to like when something is real, it's real. When it's true, it's true. And even in the BPM madness, it came out because it was that feminine energy that does the ritual, but the ritual that feminine energy does is an acknowledgement of like some kind of agreement or whatever. But like the masculine energy sees feminine energy doing that ritual, thinks that it can replicate the actions and whatever, and that it'll get the same outcome. But like without an agreement, there's nothing on the other side of that until you catch whatever energy decides to, I guess, answer. And then you get whatever you get. And a lot of times that don't whatever. But here, both the spiritual and the physical are in a position of change with the 5-5. Not this physically led, spiritually stagnant rainbow here. Cool. All right. Let's get final cards. Before we do that, because this was to bridge the gap. See, just like turning in is the crux of this, the wishing well is also the crux of this. And that feels like such a almost not dangerous territory. Like, yes, but finicky, maybe. The energy of wishes, because it's almost like there's an energy of seeking wish fulfillment that doesn't care. And so it's like a genie's favorite prime, whatever. And then there's an energy of wish fulfillment that has an awareness of other things. Almost like one is like, no matter what the cost, as long as I'm whatever, then that's fine. It's a doggy dog world, and sometimes you got to slit a few throats on your way to the top. Whereas, and it feels like, well, if that's the energy, then again, even if it's not necessarily good versus not that great, even if it isn't necessarily about karma, I mean, I guess, yeah, but it's like balance. If you upset a balance, a lot of things will correct themselves. And so you may be at the top of the well for a hot minute, but when a balancing agent comes forward, you can potentially lose even more than you gained. Because it feels like with the swan, copper, the courtroom, that's a way to bridge this into the title card. But like if you just start on the title card, it's almost like there's nowhere to go from there. And I don't necessarily know. I'm gonna have to go. I gotta go potty. I'll be right back. I gotta go to the restroom. All right, I'm back. I think it's Matthew 6 and 33. Oof. I'm glad the camera blurred because every now and then I dribble a little bit. I think it's Matthew 6 and 33. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and all of its righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Matthew 6:33. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given unto you as well. That's like, what's that, the KJV? Not the KJV, that's not King James. If you seek God, if you seek the divine first, then everything else aligns. But we're so conditioned to seeking all of the stuff first and using the divine as like the medium through which we can get what we want. Almost putting the cart before the horse. What we're truly seeking, what we sometimes are truly seeking, it's not a genuine connection to the divine or anything really spiritual. What we're seeking is a change in our physical lives, and spirit is just the way through which that can happen, right? Which is very different than seeking the divine first and then all of those other things sort of coming in. And reality can be a great way for us to measure what we're actually prioritizing. That's why one is dark and all of the ships that are coming in just wash up on the shore because they're crashing into the rocks and everything else. And the other one is luminous and it guides everything in. And again, it reads like there's one way that connects those two, and then there's the other that doesn't. Cool. I don't think I got. Maybe I did get final cards last time. How long has it been? An hour 49, an hour 50 minutes. I think we'll get final cards today. Why not? The crow at the cut with the seer. The crow still at the bottom of this deck. I feel like I've seen the crow. I feel like I've seen it on TV, but I don't remember anything. Also, again, interesting how I didn't even. How did I not clock that? How did I not clock that? The fog is at the bottom of the deck, and we have the lighthouse here. So not only are we operating in the environment of darkness, but there's also fog. Now, the thing about fog, and maybe it plays into the energy of that like spirit fire, the fire that doesn't need oxygen to burn. The thing about fog is that it'll disperse the, from what I recall and remember, the suspended water droplets in the fog disperses the light. So that's why if you're driving through fog, you don't turn on the high beams because it's just dispersing and spreading that light even more, which makes it more difficult to navigate. You turn on the low beams. But that light being dispersed through water droplets and the fog is interesting when we just saw the rainbow, which is essentially the same thing, but the angles are just like, instead of it being a whole bunch of water droplets just everywhere, it's when the light hits the water droplets the right way to break down the spectrum. Anyway, this lighthouse, it doesn't matter how foggy it is. She's giving Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? That was a nose that guided Santa's sleigh through the fog. Again, the fog that typically disperses light to make it difficult to navigate. And it's interesting that we're back on Christmas because of that whole Santa Claus is coming to town. Be goodness for goodness sake. Right? If you don't want coal, you better be good so that you get presents from Santa, but you can't be good to get presents because then that's not really being good for goodness sake. You know? And it's like, well, how am I supposed to be good for goodness sake? And I feel like it's one of those things where it's like if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, it may be impossible to grasp. You know what I mean? Anyway. Maybe it was that. I was like, I feel like I was almost listening to Christmas music recently. Now I want to listen to Christmas music. I'm the type of person, I'll listen to Christmas music whenever I feel like it. There was another animal, the hawk. So be good for goodness sake. Oh, you better not pounce. You better not cry. You better not shout, and I'm telling you why. The dolphin. Okay. Why is this not? There we go. Oh, look, there's the frog. The frog and the crow. Oops. The only animals we have left, I believe, are the bird and the frog. We've done the dragon. We did the cat before all this. We did the dog yesterday. So we got the bird and the frog. And again, I kind of want to get these all done. I don't know why. Right? Wow, the rabbit is left on the table. The rabbit is the card of self-fulfilling prophecies, but like usually there's a negative connotation to it. The rabbit's like, oh my gosh, we're gonna get eaten, we're gonna get eaten, we're gonna be eaten by this eagle, and then one day the eagle's flying overhead and overhears the rabbit, and it's like, oh yeah, haven't had rabbit in a while. Let's put that on the menu. And that's not anything that was fulfilled because of any energy associated with anything like prophecy. That was the rabbit feeding an idea to the eagle that the eagle then turned around and went through with. So maybe we're looking at dynamics with like power, right? If you give your power away, or if you forfeit this or that. Moment to moment, it's this like between the raindrops, between the moment, between also, especially because we saw Taming the Wind on this side. It's almost like learning to live in the present moment, but then there's a presence beyond the moment. You know what I mean? Now the baker's wife is singing. Uh, I don't like how she got smashed. She got smushed by the giant, but Prince Charming was fine. That did upset me a little bit. I feel like they both like if she gonna get smashed, I feel like he should have got smushed too. And then he talking to Cinderella. He was like, "I'm Prince Charming, not Prince Faithful." Hello. But you thought you'd be the only one I was charming? Morality just fell out on top of dominance and morality. Ooh, dominance and morality is that's an interesting game. This is an interesting game, and then trust at the bottom of the deck. Still putting morality on top of maturity, cutting to exhaustion and trust. Someone's trust is exhausted. Maybe that's what like we get to take the opportunity to explore when we're at the end of our rope and when our trust is exhausted. Maybe we can take the opportunity to explore what exactly we're putting our trust in. And for what reasons. We can examine our own motivations and, again, what we're putting our trust in. Grief at the bottom of the deck. It's like when we saw the blade, it was like the council, the blade, and all those other cards. And it was that energy of like prematurely. It's almost like, we're chicks inside of eggs, we're caterpillars inside of our pupas, our cocoons, pupas and pupils. Maybe that's what I'll title this one: pupas and pupils. Because no, it's fine. It's fine. It's like we're in our pupa, we're in the egg, we're in the cocoon, and we cut ourselves out, and then we just like spill out, like our because we're not solid yet. We haven't gone through our whole metamorphosis transformation, and so we just like spill out in this puddle of whatever, and like we're convinced to do it again. There's almost like a thin line here. I feel like I was going somewhere with that. But yeah, like we're not done cooking. Oh, grief. It's like because we do it ourselves, because we're using our own free will to put ourselves in a situation, because we choose to trust and live by what we choose to trust and live by for whatever, we are signing the contract and agreeing to whatever conditions we're agreeing to. And so, whenever it's time for the contract to be honored, it feels like there is almost an element of grief. It's like how the divine doesn't necessarily want to see any of us suffer or in a hard way, but especially when we do it to ourselves, that's our free will. And that's the divine's promise. And so, right? It's like if there is, I don't know, someone, and they're like, hey, blah, 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 whatever. And if we choose to do whatever anyway, that's on us. We make the choice. And although we do, we shouldn't or can't necessarily expect to be bailed out. Oh, look, there's the lake. The lake was right there. The dragon in the lake would have been so awesome. The wishing well connecting to the lake would have been so cool. But that's not where we are. We're at the courtroom and the unknown. And, they say ignorance of the law is no excuse. And that's not necessary. Like, that's not, although that's true in the court of man, that's not necessarily true in the court of the divine. Like, if we're truly ignorant and if we truly don't know, then we're not as harshly sort of held to whatever. But a lot of times we do know. Our discernment, our intuition, our conscience, our heart, like, we know. We can decide that we don't care, or we can try to see if we can get away with whatever anyway. But we know. We didn't think we'd get caught. We didn't think that, karma would have been making its rounds this quickly. We thought we had more time, or this or that or whatever. We can convince and delude ourselves, but that don't. That's why too, it's like, anyway. Almost like we're little clams. And devil energies just like in whatever flavor. And some people that like to prey on vulnerable people. They come along and crack us open, soften us up, and just slurp our insides and cast us aside. And then it's like, oh, well, when all the other clams were getting cracked, like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you don't know, it's fine. Allow me my moment of immaturity. Goodness. If all the other clams are getting cracked and we're slurping, that's consent, right? We don't get to withdraw whatever when we're the person under, when we're the person at the bottom of the wheel. If we ride the top of the wheel and we're living high and doing whatever, that's consent to when that wheel makes that, it keeps turning and we're on the bottom. Silver dragon illuminates your potential with higher light. Higher light, illuminating your potential, again, giving that lighthouse, giving the wishing well, giving that divine fire that doesn't burn with oxygen, giving Rudolph's red nose, cutting through the fog. Giving that energy of taming the wind with all of those frequencies outside of the visible spectrum. That's that higher light, the one that we can't see with our natural 3D eyes. Excuse me. Earth and water dragon, interesting because there's all that fire and air. Creates the foundation for new growth. A fresh start is coming with new opportunities. Nurture your ideas and harvest the abundance. Earth and water dragon. Bottom of the deck is Earth and fire dragon. Works with you to clear the fifth dimensional ley lines. It is time for service. When you give, you receive. When you give, you receive. Off the back of that Earth and water dragon, new foundation. Emphasis on the giving and not just the receiving. Anyway. Can you feel it? What's that? I think I want to say that's that like dance album that I got randomly. I don't know. And then it just goes into the EDM beats or whatever. I'm very much so like a Daft Punk girly, a Justice girly, Friendly Fires girly. Um, but off the Daft Punk, it's like I don't always necessarily need lyrics or depth. Sometimes repetition or a good beat will get me. Around the world, around the world, around the world, around the world. No, 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 no. Which is interesting. I did see the "We Are the World" card. I think it's the Ten of Water when I was going through the Oshos and Tarot, and I was like, I'm not flipping this one, but I did notice it. All right, Star Dragons, your final dragon, please. Clean flip or clean fall. 3, 2, 1. And a cut. All right, moving on to the next one. Oshos and Tarot. We have guilt and exhaustion at the cut. That's a rough energy. That's some devil's coming to collect its due type energy. And then again, grief was at the bottom of the deck, like the source and guilt. Okay. Clean flip or clean fall. That's 5, 4, 3. Okay, we got a faller. We'll keep doing it anyway. 2 and 1. And a cut. Fell out face down. We have flowering. Especially off of that earth and water. No mud, no lotus. Now the lotus is opening type energy. She's giving me, we did just see copper. For some reason, she's giving me the birth of Venus. Not necessarily like Venus, but just that, the birth of a goddess from this like lotus. Bottom of the deck is We Are the World. There it is. It's the 10 of rainbows, not the 10 of water. I stand corrected. Flowering and We Are the World. The burden is under We Are the World. Around the world, around the world. Maybe one day they'll come back and we'll get a new album. Do you remember where you were when you heard that Daft Punk had broken up? I feel like I've been having a lot of very interesting dreams lately. And I only mention that because back in the day when I was posting music on the Facebooks, I had this one friend that was like, whoa, like this music is kind of cool. I didn't know you were into this. I had a dream about him the other day. I haven't thought about him in a long time. He's Egyptian. I mean, he is. That means anything. Um, yeah, I haven't thought about him in a while. I should reach out to him. I should see if he's good. There was like this point, low key, where I had like a little crush on him. And it was one of those like, oh, I've never seen you in this kind of way type energy. You know what I mean? And so like when I saw him in the dream, It was just like, oh, okay. It was just okay. I mean, I'm already here. So the dream was there was something that was like going on in the dream. I don't remember what it was, but there was something that he had noticed. And I was like, what? You noticed? Oh my gosh. But then it's like I was talking to somebody earlier in the dream, almost felt like a therapist type of whatever. And they had mentioned like somebody noticing something. And then I was like, and then like he was the person that had noticed the thing. And I'm just like, and that was another moment where I like looked at him with eyes that were different. You know what I mean? And of course, in the dream, I'm like, there was that moment that I had a crush on you, like in high school. I don't. It was just. It was like being seen. I was seen, and I was like, whoa. And then, like after that happened, Earth and the Luminous Warrior with the arrow at the bottom of the deck. I'm gonna keep shuffling. Um, but after that happened, then I was like, wait, someone told me that I would be seen, and you're the person that's seeing me. Interesting. I woke up before anything happened, and that's all I remember. But yeah, anyway, wow. The Holy Mountain and the Rattle. The Holy Mountain and the Rattle is such an interesting energy. All right, we're gonna put this deck back down. We're gonna let you. I'm gonna shuffle it up, let you chill. Right. Anyway, let's get a place. All the places with all those spaces. The vineyard. The vineyard and the amusement park. We just saw the vineyard. That's when I did the like there was this diagonal and then that diagonal. Was that with the fire station? I believe that was with the fire station. And I went looking for the great alchemical operation of water. Because was that with the like the yeah. Okay. 5. Ooh. Botanical treasures artfully arranged the garden at the bottom of the deck. We got a few cards that just came out. We got 1, 2, 5 cards. At the top is the church, which is interesting for where we are. Faith's foundation, teachings explored. With the spiritual realm, dimensions of the divine, cosmic energy unveiled. Wedding, bells ringing, union celebrated. Shopping mall, retail therapy, endless options. And bedroom, cozy refuge, dreams and comfort. Church, spiritual realm, wedding, shopping mall, bedroom. Is this an energy of being spoiled for choice? Maybe, kinda. I feel like, I mean, the read was what the read was. Not that I can't allow final cards to be what they are. I feel like the shopping mall and the bedroom like clinch this for basically aligning with everything that we already read today. It is almost an energy of being spoiled for choice. It's like now we can just shop around for a belief system that aligns with what we want out of life. right? And again, off of like the Matthew 6:33, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and then all of these things will be added or given unto you. But we kind of do the other way. We seek the thing first, and then we find whatever aligns to get us that thing. And there's a lot of energies that when it comes to earthly 3D material that can give or rent a lot. Very like almost loan shark type energy. Be careful who you borrow from, because not all lenders. Like the shopping around with the shopping mall, the intimacy of the bedroom. It's like what we allow basically into our spiritual bed, I guess. What we tie and unite our souls to. We're not going to take all that. There's something about the garden that is like, there's a well, again, artfully arranged. This is manicured. This is intentional. There's like a production to them. So just, be mindful. The shopping mall and the garden. Ooh, the restaurant. I feel like I've been seeing the restaurant a lot. Okay. Ooh. Ooh, okay. All right. We got 2 rounds of flippers. The first one is the arcade. Virtual worlds connected, press play. And then we have the forest and the farmer's market. The forest, nature's playground, escape the mundane, farmer's market, neighborhood, harvest, community thriving. Escape the mundane, thriving community, virtual worlds connected, press play. What an interesting trio. Oh, there's a farmer's market in the middle of the forest. The energy of it came out yesterday with the dog's path, the wolf's tail, right? Being in the forest, we saw the alchemy of coagulation, which was like basically making it to the end and not being reset time and time and time and time again because we keep getting lost in the spiral and the jumble and the scramble. Like finding the farmer's market in the forest is crazy, especially with this like virtual worlds connected energy. Especially because we just had like the church and the spiritual realm. Not that that's necessarily giving manufactured connection, but this, it's like with this forest farmers market, it's a meeting, gathering, a natural point of connection of like different layers of reality. Like you'll see denizens from all kinds of different dimensions. Like that's virtual worlds connected. It's like there's this space in the forest where they all meet up and connect and trade and like community thriving. And it's a very natural, very organic type of energy. It's not, again, manufactured and manicured. Bottom of the deck is the garden, botanical treasures, artfully arranged. Under that is the shopping mall still, with the toy store under that, playful imagination, inner child's wonderland. There we go with the inner child, which is an energy of innate truth. It's our sense of truth that we were born with. Trust was at the bottom. Was that truth or trust? I think it was trust. That was a trust wall. Um, that's our innate sense of the truth. And so then it's again, because it's not externally manufactured or comes with all of these rules or whatever, it's a different energy. Fire ants and the crocodile, the butterfly and the crocodile, the earthworm and the butterfly. Three, two, one, and a cut. All right. Wild unknown alchemy. Interesting. We see the benevolent guide, the bumblebee. Bees, butterflies, earthworms, they're in the garden. They're in the garden, but they're like the natural part of the garden. You know what I mean? The earthworm tills the soil, the butterfly and the bees pollinate. Bees make honey, butterflies look nice, non threatening pollinators. Ooh, okay. Mortifactio, fog, and death. Ooh, girl, not death fog. Not death fog rolling in with the grief at the bottom of the deck and all of this other stuff. There is like a low key heavy energy, but that's like one side. The other, you know, when you need you, ooh, the new pearl. See again, there's almost like that's giving the energy of darkening that black pearl. But then we have the new pearl that's the shiny, luminous one that you put in the lighthouse. That's 40, no, 44. XL Ivy, 44 and 70, no, 68. LXVII, 68. 68 and 44. Your final card, please, if you will. Watermelon alchemy. Yeah, there is like a very heavy vibe. Not necessarily. I mean, there was also, the courtroom with the swan and the copper, the metal of Venus, which is like, that's not heavy at all. That's very much so like wishing well, illumination, paths illuminated, wishes and dreams coming true, all of these things aligning. Even like, even in all those times where maybe it didn't feel like it paid to keep being a good person or whatever, like you stay true to you and that'll be honored, right? Again, if that whole Jovian whatever is the sort of premise for the dragon's path, not being swayed or dissuaded by turns of events, the turning of the wheels of fortune, to continue to seek the divine first type energy. And you're rewarded. He got it all back and then some at the end. Ooh. Well, it's came right back on. Who's at the bottom of the deck? The Raven's head in reverse. This is 47, which is an 11, and 12 came back out. Darkening. It came right back out. But then we got the Raven's head. The Raven's head is very much so a ready or not type of energy, right? So is the time of darkening coming? Is it coming, or are we in a time of darkening? But if we've been pumping weights at the gym, our pearl, our lighthouse will shine bright, and our ships will find us and everything will be fine. But if not, if there isn't anything to combat the darkness, then it'll just be dark times. Let's read this one out of the book. Why not? Maybe it'll have a lighter tone or message. I'm gonna just read it. Why is it almost like, let me look for something like lighter, maybe. Maybe it'll offer something lighter than like the heaviness. And it's like, no, don't do that. No. You know what? I won't. How about that? Because it is what it is. It's not to always try to make something right. And it's because we have this tendency to try to always find the light that, again, it's like, oh well, we just lost 2 cents, we just lost 5 cents, it's just 17 cents. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. When we get into the millions and billions, that's hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars deficit, because we're always trying to make something like, we're always just glossing over, we're never getting in the details, and our books ain't balanced. So when we get audited, it's too late when the auditor comes to be like, oh, and then the auditor is like, well, can you explain where all this money is going? I have no clue. Meanwhile, old dude who's been taking advantage of our negligence already, they're on a boat to Greece or somewhere. They're on a plane to the Bahamas. They done cut they done cut out and ran. They vacation. And we just like, but yeah, again, like if we're fine, we're fine. You know what I mean? And that's the, I don't know, because again, I keep like kind of getting this tinge of like, this is kind of rough, but grief was at the bottom of the deck. The dragon of grief was at the bottom of the deck, right? Our intuition, discernment, Jiminy Cricket, conscience has like been there. We've had plenty of opportunities, you know, and there's a lot of things that'll improve for a lot of people. So we got that to look. You got that to look forward to, right? We really read sort of both sides of the dragon. I mean, I feel like I typically read both sides of the thing, but the cards came out. I thought it kind of is, but if we have an earth first, 3D first, physical, tangible first, abundance, money, relationship, partnership first, relationship with the divine or with spirit, again, it's giving me that rainbow. It only dances in the visible spectrum. But we know that there are frequencies on the spectrum that we can't see. If that's where we choose to build our home, and if that's the foundation that we choose to set for ourselves, it's on us. Anyway. But if this resonates for you in the way that that's not the case, then be excited. Be prepared for a whole bunch of stuff. You'll be luminous. sometimes, hopefully you ain't gonna have the shadow hands trying to grasp at your light. Bottom of the deck is the Ghost Dance. The card that came out is the Coyote. The Coyote is number 12. 12 is also the Darkening. Under the Ghost Dance is the Smoky Mirror. It's interesting that Ghost Dance and the Smoky Mirror are together because yesterday when I was looking at the hot springs and it was like there's like the gases that come off of the hot spring, and I was like, I'll go for the Smoky Mirror. I was like, I could have went for the Ghost Dance. It's interesting that they're here together. This is giving me. There's an image that comes to mind of like a coyote dancing with ghosts, maybe around a fire, like the coyote is doing that, and they're like ghosts around. But it's like these ghosts are maybe like ancestors. We did see Celebration, the Three of Water. It is kind of like a celebration. And again, with this energy of like the courtroom, the swan, the copper, like something finally coming full circle or whatever. It's been like a long time coming, maybe generation upon generation. Maybe there's a type of informed connection, or it doesn't even necessarily have to be spiritual. It could just be like generation upon generation upon generation of like, be a good person, do what you can for others and the environment, like kindness and love, and just great, being a great human, humanitarian, humanness, where it's like, unlike Into the Woods, it's where Cinderella gets her turn. I've been good and I've been kind, mother, doing only what I learned from you. Why then am I left behind, mother? Is there something more that I must do? Is that the words? I forget the lyrics. This has been a minute since I've listened to or watched Into the Woods. But she's like, I'm doing everything you instilled in me. Why am I the only one not going to the ball? And then she got her dress of gold and her crystal slippers, and she had her moment, and she found her prince, and you know because being a good person is about being a good person. It's not about what you do or don't get from others. It's not about being recognized. And there's a lot of villain origin stories that start there, but then it's like, okay, well, like, oh, I'm it's like, okay, but like what was the point or whatever. And it's like the point was never what you got in return. The point was always who you are and being who you want to be or called to be, who you are. Cool. I've been seeing a lot about antlers. Like, I feel like a strange amount. Excuse me. The elk, the mouse, the frog, the dog, the frog, the lion. Okay, all right. Final card from the Wild Unknown Animal Spirits. Ooh. 5, 4, 3. Well, let's finish it out. 1 out 2 and 1. The card that flipped over is the Cobra. When the student is ready, the master appears type energy. Bottom of the deck is the frog. Because there is an energy of like student, master, lessons. What is the lesson of the frog? Well, frogs are amphibians. Amphibious, meaning they can be on the water or on the land. I just saw something. Maybe it was like frogs take in oxygen or frogs breathe through their skin. I think that was it. We did just see Taming the Wind. Also, I watch a lot of anime. I love isekais, you know. Um with beast people. Usually beast can they don't wear a lot of armor. And one show, I was reincarnated as a sword, I believe. Something reincarnated as a sword was one of the shows that actually like addressed it. You see it a lot, but not everybody like brings it up, right? It's like you have so much skin exposed. Are you not protected? Um, and the guy said the blacksmith that had God sight, talking about the blade that was the pupil of the dragon. So the sword had an ability. There's an analyze skill where you can analyze the properties of something, but he had analyzed protection. He can't be analyzed, but the dwarven eye of God's sight saw through that protection. And the sword was like, "How did you know I was intelligent?" And the dwarf was like, "I got God's sight." He was like, "How did you know I'm intelligent? You shouldn't have been able to analyze me." And the dwarf was like, "I got a special eye. I got God's sight. I was able to see through that, girl." Rudolph's red nose, lighting the way through the fog, God's sight, the blade, dragon people and pupas. Anyway, he was like, like you made her the Beast Girl armor. She was a black cat, if you're curious. And he was like, why doesn't her armor like cover her midriff and her legs? And like she has so much skin that's exposed. And the blacksmith was like, beastkin, beast folks, they sense a lot of those subtle things on their skin, right? So like the breezes and like, you know, stuff like that, they feel it on their skin. And so if you were to cover it up, it's like under the guise of protection or in the name of protection, if you were to cover them up, you would actually be reducing their ability. It's like reducing their natural defenses with all of this armor because of what the sword that used to be a human sees as protection, right? Like, how does that armor protect you? How are you protected? You're left so vulnerable. You're left so exposed. If she were to have dressed the way that he thought she should have dressed, if she were to protect herself in the way that she sees the majority of everybody else protecting themselves, she would actually be reducing her natural, evolved protective mechanisms, defense mechanisms. She would be sacrificing protection for the sake of protection. And something in that, it's giving me the, like when we saw the garden as the church, the spiritual realm, the wedding, the shopping mall, and the bedroom, versus seeing the garden as the forest, the farmer's market, and whatever that other card was. Arcade, virtual worlds connected. It's like, it's kind of like that. And so, what was passed down from like within that family of like, be a good person. It doesn't matter what the law says. It doesn't matter what religion, dogma, beliefs say. Be a good person. Be loving. Be whatever. Because it's not illegal to be a terrible person and to treat people like garbage. And there's a lot of dogmas and belief systems that will give you the green light, that will justify, that will make it holy to treat people like garbage and to violate the human rights of certain people. And that's not okay. When it comes to greater forces, when it comes to energies of karma, balance, and stuff like that, all of that is taken into account. Anyway, that's what Cobra and the frog are giving. Because frogs breathe through their skin. So maybe with the Cobra, there's like a learning. Maybe someone is learning, or maybe someone's going to come into some kind of energy of teaching, and through teaching, they're going to learn. Right. And maybe learning will come in the way of like, hey, you should protect yourself like this. You should do that. And then maybe you do it and you're like, something's not right. Like I can't read the wind. I can't feel all of the stuff that I used to feel. Like I know I'm supposed to be protected, but this is actually making me more vulnerable, and it's cutting me off from what is natural and true and right and in alignment and authenticity and integrity for me type energy. Cool. So there we go. Excuse me. And maybe in that, the plot of dominance is revealed, right? The dominance that was on the side of that golden crested light, or golden crested dragon. And I was like, ooh, in name only, girl. In name only. Because he ain't standing for none of this. And in what world would it make sense? In the human world. Plenty of things make sense in the human world, and you're human, so why not? When in Rome. All right. Star Dragons, you are the only deck that's left. So, you know what? You ain't got to say. I'm going to give it 10. If don't nothing come out, don't nothing come out. 9, 8, ooh, 7, 6, 5, 4. I don't know. Oh, 1 second. I feel like something is like in my ear. I'm gonna grab it now. All right, I'm back. I felt like something was like tickling my ear. I'm like, ugh, get out of here. I lost count. Enlightenment. Moving forward. Dragon number 23 at the bottom of the deck. I guess I'll start over. I saw a card front. I'll start over from 7. Okay. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh, we got one. Bottom of the deck is knowledge. Knowledge is power just came to mind. I was like, oh, interesting, because there's been so much about power. Zeal without knowledge is like fire without light, especially talking about the energy we were talking about. Zeal without knowledge is like fire without light. The knowledge is here. The card that came out is effort, number 7, conquering your demons. And it's interesting how similar effort looks to dominance. Interesting how similar these two look. You can see like the fire gathering in the breath. You can see the light. You see this like the shiny shing sort of glitter, like glinty. Fire without knowledge. Fire with knowledge. Knowledge at the bottom of the deck. Effort, conquering your demons, not dominance. It's interesting because dominance is believing in yourself, but it's like this inflated self view. It's like it builds you up, it sets you up, it sets you high, it makes you giant so that when you fall, you will fall. But the thing about effort is she's put in the work, she's hit the gym. You can't make her low because she, hello, she is that girl. She's put in the effort. She's put in the work. She's conquered her demons. And it's interesting that it's conquering your demons because it's been like devil energy that's been coming in, selling us these shortcuts, this put the physical first. Like when we're putting the physical first, again, the 3D, the material, it's the basest and the easiest to manipulate. People, human beings manipulate the 3D. A human being can set you up for life or can blacklist you and make life incredibly difficult. And that ain't even nothing spiritual. That's not even a spiritual force. That's people. And so if we put that first, anyway, this is the dragon that came out. I'll read it. I'll read it from the book. Love that that knowledge is there. This is number 7. I gave it 7 shuffles. We started at number 7, didn't we? And number 7 came out. Effort, conquering your demons. This is Perseus. Interesting. Alpha Persei is the star. It's interesting because I started watching this other anime, and one of the first guilds you see is Perseus, the Perseus Guild, right? And the Perseus Guild used to be illustrious. It used to be something like upright and like whatever, but the person who took over the guild basically ran it into the ground, took advantage of its reputation, ran it into the ground. All of the respect that you used to have for Perseus, you don't have no more because the person at the top. Anyway, and that's as far as I've watched too. Anyway, wisdom of the herald. They thought they had you cornered. They were wrong. They said you had it coming. Also wrong. Each one of your adversaries fell by your own hand as you rose up and wielded a mighty sword, the sword of Goliath, sword of David. Sorry. Go forth into battle and lay waste to those who would keep you from your purpose. Demons be darned. Take action, right all wrongs, and find your power. Find your power with knowledge. Knowledge is power. This is a way, again, this isn't transcendence achieving success, transcendence under knowledge. None of this knowledge, none of this transcendence, and the fires of domination. And again, domination is very much the masculine energy approach to spirituality in general. Again, it's kind of marketed as a tool for you to get what you want out of life. to get the person, get the car, get the job, get the everything, fame, fortune. We kind of use it as a tool instead of it being what it is. What is it? That's beyond the scope of this. That's beyond my. I'm not going to tell you what it is or isn't. I'll tell you it ain't just a tool, but anything beyond that is beyond me, girl. You find your own answer. See for yourself. Transcendence under knowledge, which is number 10. 10 was changed. 10 is also 5 plus 5, which is the 55 that was taming the wind. Transcendence, achieving success after you conquer your demons. Also, the thing about knowledge with this effort, this is different. We saw inner voice and the thunderbolt. Inner voice and the thunderbolt read like authority. And authority and dominance are not the same thing. Because of the knowledge here, this plays closer to authority. Authority crumbles before dominance crumbles before authority. Because in the presence of authority, dominance doesn't matter. I was the toughest where I came from. I was the smartest in my grade. I'm the most beautiful in my hometown. I'm the most blah, blah, blah. But before the presence or in the presence of true brilliance, true greatness, it don't matter. You were the prettiest in your town. Okay. You're a 2 and you live in a town of 1s. And you're in the presence of a 10. You were the smartest in your grade. Okay. Well, look at your test scores. Hello? And we get so caught up in the comparative whatever, and it fills our heads and our ego so much that we can stop putting in the effort ourselves. Because it's like, well, like there's nobody smarter, there's nobody more capable, there's nobody more spiritual than me and my immediate surroundings, so I'm good. I don't have to work or journey or heal or whatever anymore. I'm the best around. And it's like, okay, girl. Well, we'll see how that dominance fares against true authority. Anyway, there's a knowledge to this, which is why it's like the card is saying it's time. Maybe North Node Aquarius is saying it's time. Pluto's in Aquarius. Uranus trining from Gemini. What's happening in Leo season? Or not Leo season. What's happening in Libra season? I wonder at what point. I wonder if we'll get a grand trine between the Sun in Libra, Uranus in Gemini, and Pluto in Aquarius. I got my iPad. I got Time Nomad, so I'll look into it. I'm going to read that one more time. Again, like if you've been hitting the gym, but that was the thing even before this came out. Or was it after this came? No, I think it was before this came out. Was it when we saw the new Pearl and Darkening? Or was that when we saw it was in the Mystical Shaman? There was the energy, it was like Time Master energy, Spiral Taming the Wind. Where it was light and Taming the Wind, but it was dark in another card. And it was like, hopefully, it's not going to be like those shadowy hands grasping for your light. I mean, if those shadowy hands grasp for your light, lay them low, put them down. That's what the card is saying. It's saying, put them down. Put them down. Again, we got knowledge, we have transcendence. There's the energy of it's not about dominance, it's about authority. Again, it's kind of sort of going back to that less majesty energy. Less majesty off of a noblesse oblige, not less majesty off of some kind of false, inflated puppet type, whatever. Because they'll set you up, girl. They'll set you up to fall. And again, they'll collect their coins and they'll dip before the auditors come in. Anyway, they thought they had you cornered. They were wrong. They said you had it coming. Also wrong. Each one of your adversaries fell by your own hand as you rose up and wielded a mighty sword. Go forth into battle and lay waste to those who would keep you from your purpose. Demons be darned. Take action. Right all wrongs and find your power. Wisdom of the dragon. When the going gets tough, shoot a fireball and watch it all burn. It is time to work hard and play harder. All the energy you invest in your endeavors will be returned to you. Get going. Make the effort and you'll be victorious. Power up. Power up. Don't forget to put some light in your fire. You know what I mean? Don't forget to put some light in your fire to make them burn a little brighter, make them crispy. Sometimes you gotta crack a few eggs to make an omelet. Sometimes some folks just position themselves to be made an example out of. You know what I mean? And it ain't telling you to go out of your way and try to find whatever. If it rises up against you while you are en route to your purpose or fulfilling your purpose, cut them down. What else do you expect from a dragon? Hello? Because I'm a little like, ooh. Again, what else do you expect from a dragon? Interesting. Okay. Well, that's all the cards. That's all the drink. That's what I got. Ooh. Apparently, there's still a little bit of something here. Why do I feel like my head just swam a little bit? I feel like I drank all of that and I ain't even feel it. That sip that was left under the lip of the bottle got my head like, ooh. Anyway, it's fine. Yeah, I hope you'll have an amazing whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that whatever you need along your path, journey, and way you find. Thanks, Holly, for stopping by and spending some time with me. I kind of want to get something else, just like a cherry on top. You know what I mean? But maybe not. Maybe we'll just leave it. Yeah, I guess we'll just leave it. I'll catch y'all next time. Again, we still have the bird and the frog. I don't know. I know I'm using the Places Oracle. I know I'm using the Animal Spirits Water Gnome. I don't know what other decks I'm gonna use. Maybe if we do the birds, I'll use the fairy. Maybe I'll do like the fairy tarot and the archangel power tarot cards. Fairies and angels for the bird. For the frog, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when we get there. I could do all this and then end up not doing anything with it. It'd be like that sometimes.